Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and earn even more money. All in one place, and it's for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup looks like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we discovered Spotify for Podcasters, we feel like having options like video podcasts, Q&A, and polls has let us be creative on a whole other level. I highly recommend you give it a try. So download Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Welcome back, X's and T podcast fans. It's Danny here. I'm really excited to welcome you all back to this new episode. I swear, I start every episode with I'm so excited. I love this. You guys, I genuinely enjoy getting this opportunity to come on here to help people share stories, get to share my own experiences, and just continue the mission to spread awareness about MLMs. And that's yet again what we're back to talk about today. So as always, here's my disclaimers. I am not here to defame anybody, okay? I have a beef with, and I'm going to say it this time, I have a beef with both Amway and Worldwide. I'm not here to defame them. If you are trying to join, you are more than welcome to, but I would highly encourage you to listen to people's stories beforehand to just get as much information as you can. In this podcast, we change everybody's names. I'm not out here to ruin anybody's lives. I have to say this though, I legally don't have to. I know a lot of people are like, oh, do you have to do this? No, I actually don't. I just choose to because I'm just trying to be a little extra kosher, if you will. But no, not here to defame anybody, so don't sue me, okay? My opinions, personal experiences, and I have a guest today who will also be sharing personal experiences and personal opinions. So, you guys, I'm here to welcome yet another person who was almost, I'm going to use the word coerced because I feel like that's a word that's so relevant, but a lot of us who get involved in organizations like Worldwide Dream Builders, there's so much coercion. So this person was also coerced into Worldwide Dream Builders and has such an incredible story to share. So I'm excited to introduce, and her name has been changed as well as everybody else's names. So I would like to introduce Jada. What is up, Jada? Thanks for being here.
Hi.
So I'm really excited to have this opportunity to speak with you. And we've talked before this, and you have so much stuff that you've experienced, and I'm excited for you to get to share it. How did you find my podcast?
Actually, my friend who was also in the business, she was a guest on one of the previous episodes. And so I listened to it and I was like, hey, I can add to that. And so I reached out and here I am.
Yeah, which I'm really excited. And I'm really glad that, through the grapevine, you were kind of able to hear different perspectives and want to share your own story, which is fantastic. What is it that really compels you to want to share your story and continue this anti-MLM message?
Yeah, so first part honestly is like fuck all that. I'm tired of that noise. I'm good with it. I don't need to be involved with that anymore. But the second part is honestly like when I remember like going through like process and everything, even while I was in business, they were like, don't trust what you hear online. And I want to be one of the voices that they're telling you not to trust online because they know we're telling things they don't want out.
Yeah.
I like to be the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you're right. I just released an episode recently. Well, and I've been going through an old audio. It's really interesting to hear within the first 30 minutes of this audio, someone's already there telling you, like, hey, don't trust these people. Don't come at me with, it was the Syrian guy. I don't say this to be derogatory. It's just he very much made that his entire personality. He was from Syria. What is our excuse to be, lacking in society or complaining about this business or this country or whatever, because that was his good quote immigrant experience. So I'm just prefacing that that's why I call him that. But it was him in the audio that was saying that. And it's like you're already planting seeds of doubt for us to stop listening to the people who have actually been there our entire lives. So
Destructive, manipulative, like you're so willing and up and tell you to like fuck everybody, abandon everybody, your mom, your dad, your auntie, cousin, mother, brother, sister, if they're not what they're telling you does not fall in line with their such a little box, and they get you to do it so easily, so willingly that you don't realize anything's wrong until it's almost too late to go back, or it is too late to go back. There's nothing you can say to unburn that bridge.
Yeah, definitely. Actually interviewed my dad, a perspective of a parent of a worldwide dream builder. And we were talking about that, about how, there are parents who have such distant relationships with their family members because their kids are in the business. In fact, I've heard of people saying, my kids are so wrapped in this business, I've never even met my grandchildren. And I'm like, that is devastating. And so he's able to kind of offer that perspective. But I agree with you. There's definitely some bridges that you can never rebuild after you've burned them.
Yeah.
And worldwide, definitely, they do a lot to burn those bridges. And I'm so glad that you want to be that person who's out there causing all the ruckus because we need to make noise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if we don't call it out, no one's ever going to notice it. It'll continue to fly under the radar. So we need to bring awareness. We need to put a spotlight on everything that's happening and lay all of our cards on the table so they can't say they didn't know what we were playing with. But
Yeah.
also on that topic of parents, like parents of worldwide dream builders. I don't know if you remember, but there was this audio from the guy who talks really fast, his wife,
Yeah.
and she was saying that like when her mom died, she found like all these blog posts she left, and in one of them, she had wrote like, oh, I love my daughter, but basically like she left and she only cares about the pursuit of money. She and her husband, they build this stupid business and it just tears them away from us and our family and everything. And she goes, wow, I never really knew like my mom felt that way. And she basically spun her mom being like, I miss my daughter into, so they'll say these manipulative things and you need to completely ignore what your parents say because they don't have your vision. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I didn't. That must have come out after I left, and I just know exactly who you're talking about, the guy who talks really fast, his wife, and it's devastating to hear that because it quite literally tore a family apart, and I can't imagine what her mom must have been feeling because her only outlet was going to different blogs and probably Reddit to be able to express herself because she can't tell her child, and there's people out there who can relate because she's being fed this BS because she's with a quote second generation diamond. He's the guy who talks too fast and he's his parents'
Yep.
child and they don't have the fruit on the tree. So she can't listen to her parents, which is so sad because none of this is at all how it was presented to me when I was introduced to this business. So on that note, how did you get wrapped up in worldwide kind of like the rest of us?
Yeah, so my friend, the same one who I mentioned earlier, we got together one day out of the blue. Like I reached out, like, you know what, it's been a while. I just let me reconnect because I got out of a really terrible relationship and I let all of my friendships go for the most part. And so I was just trying to unburn these bridges I've already burned once. I'm trying to unburn them and fix it, put out the fire, and I'm reaching out to everybody trying to set up times to, reacquaint with my friends. And I got with her and she told me about, this guy, his name was Vincent, and he reached out to her on LinkedIn. And, Vincent was like, well, I know these people, Frank and Sarah, and they can, like, basically, they can hand you like the key to the Golden Gate. They can teach you how to make a six-figure income in 2 to 5 years and do all this, that, third, how to drive a car and do a backflip. And I was like, great. So when are you going to introduce me? And I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. And yeah.
Yeah, but it makes sense because when you're already in this space, and we've definitely talked about this before, where you're almost in a level of desperation, maybe not in a way where you're desperate for, I don't know, finances or
Mm,
things, but there's also that kind of starvation for acquaintances, especially when you've gone through some shit. And so
yeah.
I don't blame you at all because we've all been told something, some form of a seductive phrase to get us involved. So I totally see where you're coming from with that. And it is interesting kind of looking at people and how they've been approached. And you were approached by somebody who you knew who had good intentions. And I've definitely talked to your friend, and she's a good person. Like she was definitely not what worldwide is. And of course, neither are you. And I truly believe anybody who leaves, it's because they're not that type of
Yeah.
person. Yeah, that's sad. it's so sad that that ended up happening, but you were in you're I remember you told me that when you had your first meet and greet, that
Yes.
they said something so smooth to you. Do you mind sharing that?
Yes. Frank flew in person to where I was to do our first board plan in the area in person because the team I was on, it was born during COVID. And so no one had seen anyone in person. And then finally, we were basically starting to do well enough that we were deemed worthy of him coming out to, for just a night, to just show the plan and then get back on the plane and go home. At that time, he was like, okay, well, we can do your MG2 and then you can go straight to the board plan. And then you know what? That's fine. You know what? I know you don't have a car right now. You don't even have to leave after the board plan. You can stay for the training because you know what? I know you're going to make it into the business. I know you're going to go far. I know you're going to be diamond. You're going to go eagle. You're going to go double diamond. And I didn't really understand half those like pins at that point, but he was like, I can see you going far. And I was like, cool. Money and I get to prove my ex wrong. So
Yeah. Yes, that's smooth. I'm not speaking to your friend. We're going to call her Sarah. But we're not speaking to Sarah. We're speaking to the platinum who is here speaking to you and just being so love bombing. Like that's so sad. And
yes.
especially when you come from, it sounds like you had said you have to prove your ex wrong. It sounds like that wasn't a healthy relationship. When you're already coming from a spot that's not healthy, that probably felt so good.
It felt like drinking hot chocolate, like crossing the finish line first. It felt like you were at the top. And like, man, this is the first time meeting you. You had a conversation with me for 15 minutes. Literally it was 15 minutes. We were in a fish and chicken restaurant because everywhere was closed because it was like 10:30 at night. And so we were in the middle of a fish and chicken restaurant. Bought nothing, by the way. We were just in this man's restaurant for like 15 minutes so he could do this meeting, whips out an iPad, does what he does, buys a drink, and leaves. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a very interesting night.
That sounds like it. So yeah, no, I could see how you already have, like I said, you're coming with somebody that you trust, and this
Yes.
guy's love bombing you, and you're like, no, I'm good, like I'm in. And so, what was your honeymoon phase like? What was your first period of time in the business like? And you joined in 2021. There you
21.
go,
Yeah.
got it.
I'm
Okay,
gonna
and
be
how old
honest.
were you at this time?
When I got in business, I was 20. I turned 21 in the business.
Wow, so you were still very young, very similar to Sarah as well. Wow,
Yes. So,
dang,
yeah, honestly, I don't think up until like I was getting close to the end of my time in business, I think it was at least a year, at least 9 months for like this honeymoon phase. I would say at least like in my eyes for those 9 months, 9 months to a year, like where I could do no wrong. They were only trying to help me. They were only trying to build me up. They were only trying to give me everything I lacked. I was scared to talk to people. Well, now they gave me a chance to learn how to talk to people and not feel weird. They gave me a chance to make as many friends as I could build a downline with. They gave me the chance to be prosperous. They gave me the chance to go so far with any people I felt were close to me that I could bring in with. I felt like they gave me the world on a gold platter.
yeah.
And so, yeah. And then after it was just one of those functions. And I was sitting in the stands at one of the functions. And like I went from being like, yeah, that's going to be me down there to this feels weird. Why does it feel weird?
Yeah.
I'm not vibing with this anymore. Something is wrong with the energy here. And I sat down and I was looking around because it was right after Next Level came on. And like I
Ah,
had
next
just finished
level.
like listening to Next Level and it was like the Pied Piper's spell had broken. Like it was just like this, it wasn't what it was anymore. It was
Yeah.
weird. It was like instead of listening to like whatever it was like the Kids Bop version. And nobody wants to listen to Kids Bop. So I was good.
It really was. They would change the words and change it to like worldwide shit. Did they still do the put your diamonds in the sky shit? Or no, they stopped doing that?
I think so. I never saw them do that though, because I
The
was always in
diamond
the
dance?
crowd. I would see like people on the floor raising their hands, but I'll be honest with you, I'm big blind, so I couldn't see what they were doing. But they do
Yeah,
like they sing that song still.
God, it's so cringe. I remember when I was in, we were told that we had to stop because it was too cultish. So ironic that they're saying this too.
Are you serious?
Is we used to, oh yeah. So at the end of functions on like day 3, so like on Sundays, we would go outside out of the arena and they would say, like, go worldwide or something, like a sporting kind of event after you're done with sports. And they'd say, put your diamonds in the sky. Like
Oh
this,
my
I'm
God.
showing you. It's the Illuminati triangle looking shit with some like
That's
antlers.
terrible.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, we had to stop doing that.
Yeah, no,
But yeah.
they moved it into next level. So they'll have them sing like Diamonds by Rihanna. Shine bright like
Uh,
a diamond.
well, they didn't play that when I was there. Dang. They
Yeah,
must
so
have
they moved. I
upgraded
guess they
their
moved that to
songs.
that because that was the song I was thinking of, and they would they would be on the floor doing the diamonds to that. But after the
Yeah.
functions, they would instead use that to like cuddles and night owls, even though they weren't supposed to be doing night owls anymore. They pissed off too many of the hotels, and so I'd still do the huddles and the night owls, and so they pissed them off with that.
Wow. I heard that from somebody else that said that they weren't allowed to night owl anymore. And I was wondering why. I didn't ever get into it. So that's why, because too many hotels were complaining about the length of time they were staying and fucking blowing up their fucking hotel room or
Well,
hotel lobbies.
the COVID safety regulations, worldwide
Yeah.
would come in and boom, 10,000 people just in the lobby of the casino standing there menacingly. The guests can't get in and get to their room. They're just surrounded by people they hope aren't sick. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The selfishness. I mean, even before COVID, it was wild. We would be in hotels and like you would just see floods of people. A huge majority weren't even staying at the fucking hotel. And
Yep.
you're right that the pure disrespect. I could imagine after COVID, it was definitely a lot worse. I mean, you're talking about a super spreader event happening like that in your fucking lobby. Absolutely not. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. And so I totally see where you're coming from too when you said like, oh shit, like something like clicked for you, or I guess maybe kind of the fog kind of started to fade a little bit. What was that like? And did you kind of pinpoint something that specific night where you started to realize what it was that you were feeling?
I don't think so. So I think I was at not family reunion, spring leadership. And they're like, you plant your heart, you plant your feet at spring leadership. This is a time when you go in and you do everything and make sure you're ready to have your mind on point for the function because what you're prepared to take out is what you're gonna get. And I thought I was so ready. I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I need. And I went and for the first like day and a half, I was like, yeah, this is great. This is phenomenal. Like halfway through because it was maybe after the Eagle Summit. I know they had Next Level coming again to start, like the day was fresh. And after listening to Next Level, which I had convinced myself the only reason I was allowed to actually listen to it and not feel bad was because that was the only like music I was allowed to listen to once I left. So I was like, I'm gonna make the most of this terrible music. I'm gonna
Yeah.
deal with them singing Michael Jackson. They don't need to. They're not Michael. Please stop. I'm gonna deal with this horrible stuff because it's the only fun I'm gonna have until like I
Yeah.
go diamond or something. And after that, I sat down and I think it was the guy who talks really fast, New Diamond. He and his wife went up there and they were talking, but they've had them on like a pedestal for like the last handful of years. And I've heard what they said. I heard it my first spring leadership, which was that very first function I went to. And I heard it again on the recording of the family reunion. I heard it again on the, what was it, Free Enterprise Day. I heard it there. I heard it again. I heard it again. I heard it again. It was the exact same thing. And I was like, okay, I don't know if it's just me, but this sounds like the exact thing he said the last time I was up there. It felt like almost verbatim. It was a sense of deja vu. And I was like, you know what, whatever. Like, I know people, they tend to repeat their messages. So I'm like, whatever. They're telling you what you need to hear, but you take out different parts of the same message. So you hear one thing one place, you hear another thing another place. It's fine. That's what it is. That's just my brain playing tricks on me. But then I felt like the next guy who came up said the exact same thing. And I'm hearing the same 10 sentences. And then the
Yeah.
wives get up in the same 10 sentences. And oh, we love my husband. 10 sentences. I'm good. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And so with that, I sat there for a day and a half, ignoring them and going, what have I done with my life? Where has my life
Yeah.
taken me that I'm sitting here in an arena chair, halfway up to the nosebleeds, listening to people I don't know and I know don't care about me talk? What
Yeah.
has my life like? How have I gotten here? And then I started like pulling apart all of the threads, and I was like, this is absolute bull. I was so mad. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I love the way that you phrase that too. Then, okay, so absolutely valid. Everything you just said was valid, but something that you said that we have not talked about here before that is such a good point. When you talked about you weren't allowed to listen to music, you are not wrong. In fact, that was something that they would always tell us, replace your music with our audios.
Yes.
And like respectfully, that's not I thrive off of music. It sounds like you do too. It's like what kind of music did you like before the business that they were like, you can't listen to this?
It was K-pop. I listened to a lot of K-pop.
Hey.
And it wasn't even they didn't think anything was wrong with it. They were just like, okay, but is that input going to make you a millionaire? I was like, well, I don't know. Is Hillside United making you a millionaire? I'm sorry. But
No,
I'm
you're
like, it's
good.
like, no, you want me to replace all of my music with gospel music and worldwide audios. I can barely stand the gospel music genre. I've got 2
Yeah.
songs I like from it, so I'm good. I don't need any more. So
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. It's no wonder they liked Hillsong though. Because if you dive deep into Hillsong, you kind of realize how kind of that organization, that whole church, that whole
Apparently, a lot of the
sh-
like platinum, emerald, diamonds, they would get together and they'd go to Hillsong concerts.
yes, I
They would
heard
go to
that
them
from
concerts, yeah.
I heard that in an audio. She's not single anymore, but she's downline from she built it single as an emerald. Now she's married. She's downline from the guy who talks really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking
I
about?
know who
She
you're
said it in
talking
her
about.
audio. She's like, "Oh, we got to go to their concert together in their private jet, and this is where I'm at in my life." And it's like, oh God, I don't ever, I would never want to go see Hillsong. Like, I'm gonna put this disclaimer out just purely for me. If that's your jam, whatever, like you do you. I'm not gonna criticize you. Like,
Yeah.
hey, whatever religion, faith, whatever you have, as long as you're not hurting anybody. But also, like, go look up some shit about Hillsong, and you'll be surprised at what you fucking see.
Do you
I
really
should do
want
a
to
whole episode
associate
about
with
that
that
one.
or?
I mean, you're not wrong. But yeah, I mean, K-pop. K-pop is, from what I understand, pretty like upbeat and happy and like just kind of, I don't listen to K-pop. The only thing
Yeah.
I know about K-pop is what's the guys' names? The BTS, right?
Yeah.
This thing, right? This is the
Yeah.
is the heart.
Yeah. That's
That's it.
BTS.
That's all I know about
Yeah.
them. But that
I'll be honest, the only thing that kept me building the business for so long was like, I'm going to use this money to go to K-pop concerts. And then
yo,
halfway
yes.
through, I think it was actually right before the function, something in me was like, they're not going to let you go to a K-pop concert. They're not going to let you use that money for that. Because
No, you're not wrong.
my entire plan was I wanted a merch room. I just wanted to hoard K-pop merch. I wanted like
It's
floor to
dope.
ceiling bookshelves full of albums and everything. And they were like, I was like, that's if I became a diamond, that would not happen.
Which
That
is
would not
dumb
happen.
because that's your dream. Like they would say to me too, because I'm a huge music fan, but I like the except for genre. I
Mm.
like everything except
Except
for
for
country
country,
music. Yeah.
gospel.
So,
I feel
yeah,
you.
I don't like gospel music. I'm definitely like, my favorite guy is Eric Church. He's not very like, he's not a godly guy. I mean, he does have a couple of like buzzwords in there, but otherwise he's not like your traditional country singer, which is what I love about him. But that was my thing. I was like, they told me I had a small dream, and I was like, okay, well then fuck it. Like my dream is to go get fucking pit tickets to every fucking concert that he has within a 6-hour 2-state radius down,
Right.
which they're really cheap. They're like, I got pit tickets afterwards and I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest moment of my life. But no,
That's
it's like that kind of shit is your dream. And they would shit on it, which is such
yeah.
bullshit. But you're so right. I started listening to Christian music when I was there. And there was a song that my son really liked. But now that my son's older, he's like, Mom, I just don't like that song. I'm like, that's totally fine, buddy. We don't have to listen to
I
that.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, which is cool. He's starting to really like early 2000s R&B music, which
Oh
is so
no.
funny. I'm like, how did this happen? But it's a good time. But I really wanted to bring that to light because that just goes further into the cult like atmosphere, the deception, that the information control, that you're only supposed to listen to audios, and fucking Hillsong or fucking Next Level. Like those are your options. And it takes your personhood away. Like, when you did you see changes within yourself, well, like from the beginning of the business until maybe towards the end? Like, did you see those changes? What did that look like for you?
Oh yeah, I definitely saw those changes. When I joined the business, I had platinum blonde hair. My
Oh,
hair is
really?
now fully black. When I joined the business, I was like a little tomboy. I was a rat. And I dressed like it and I act like it. And I mean, it was what it was. I just wasn't polished. That's the big major decision. I wasn't polished. I wasn't super feminine. And after being in the business, it was like came like more feminine, more pretty and proper and prim and prissy and pretentious. And I just was very irritating because I would like look in the mirror after like these things and is that really me? Like I never thought I'd see the day I was willingly putting on tights. Like that would never happen. Like,
Yeah.
it was just things like that. Like, I've never worn heels. And so got in the business and I bought a pair of heels. I'm like, that would never have been me if I had not been in this business. And
Yeah.
I really just thinking about it like differently. I stepped back from everything I'd enjoyed. Like, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, I'm a writer. I like to create, I like to do things. And I stopped doing all of the arts that I did. And I sort of just took the time to, I don't know. I guess I learned to become ladylike. My mother had been trying to teach me that for however, and I avoided it. But somehow I learned some of that skill there. Now she's very happy that I'm very ladylike. I'm still kind of peeved that I let it happen. But, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with being ladylike and
Yeah.
being pretty and floaty and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't necessarily who I was before the business. And I'm not really sure it's who I am now, but it's the weird middle stage where I'm detoxing everything. So,
Yeah, definitely. And that's, yeah. I mean, same. I was never really like I would dress up every now and then, but I'm definitely like a jeans and a t-shirt person, or
yeah.
like I stay home so much. I wear like shorts and a t-shirt because I live in Arizona. It's too hot for
Yeah.
everything else. But no, I agree. I kind of made that same change, but it's because that's what they push on you. And one
Hmm.
thing that you told me, speaking of, oh my gosh, one thing that you told me was that, I mean, some of the toxic things that you've seen a lot, but one specific toxic bullshit thing that you had seen
Yeah.
was how the men critiqued the women and
Yeah.
how they would specifically do it with their own fucking wives. Can you go
Yes.
into that a little bit?
Yeah, no. So at least from what I remember, like maybe during like regionals, SMMs, trainings, when they're talking to their teams, and even maybe like sometimes slightly, not to a super big extent during like regionals or whatever, just trying to give pointers to like their downline on how to. I did pointers with air quotes there for y'all who can't see me, just on how to dress and be appropriate for whatever function it is. And like they had the PDF on like how to dress, what business casual versus informal versus formal was. But like clearly people weren't able to figure it out. And I don't mean that derogatorily, but they was like people who hadn't been in that environment before could not translate those instructions well because they weren't written clearly, I'll say. So they would basically take to like using each other as like, well, this isn't good. If this was to be, if say if we were at a major function, you couldn't wear this blouse because see it's too low cut here and it's this there and the skirt's to this. But instead, if she went and she did this and put on a pair of tights and a nice pair of heels, and she put a button up and a nice necklace, and she really did her makeup because she looks a little homely right now.
That's
And
so gross.
yeah. And so they would kind of do that. I remember for because Frank flew out again to do more trainings for our team. So I remember one time when he flew out, he spent a second telling the guys, make sure you're clean shaven, you look good, you got a tie on, your tie's tied right, your shirt's buttoned all the way up, no mustard stains. And then he turns to the girls. It was kind of like, why aren't you guys wearing skirts? Why aren't you guys wearing dresses? Why aren't you in heels? Why aren't you in tights? Why don't you have makeup on? Also, why are you buying makeup? You don't have makeup on, but why are you buying it? Because you can't afford it. I did your budget sessions. Why is your hair done? Why isn't your hair done? That's not professional, but also you shouldn't be spending your money. And so we would get these back and forth
What?
controversial messages that don't make sense. Do your
But
hair and look nice, but don't spend money. Buy makeup and look nice, but don't spend your money. Basically, if it wasn't part of our ditto, we weren't supposed to spend
but is
money
it
on it.
makeup? But can't makeup be part of your ditto because of fucking artistry?
It can, but they also did budget sessions for us. Like they would look at our monthly income and be like, this is how much you can allot to your ditto. And our team was small, it was young. And so we had maybe $100 out of pocket we could do for our ditto. So there's no way at the prices that Amway had it put that we could buy a full skincare, makeup routine, hair care routine, body care routine, teeth brush routine, laundry routine, house cleaning routine, and make our ditto and buy our excess because you want us to do 5 board plans in a day, 5 board plans in a week. We got a training too. We got to do this, but it's all set up for the people in LA. And so we have to stay up until 2 a.m. while LA's got the nice board plan at 6 p.m. It's just like, it was mad whack,
Yeah.
and it was a weird double standard.
Wow. So that's right. You were in during a time, which I know this is, they did this in such an ambiguous way, but you were in where they were trying to push this whole customer volume shit, right?
Yes.
So what was your out of pocket was supposed to be $100 for personal PV, right? So what was the expectation that you were supposed to be meeting in the entirety of your PV every month?
Entirety of the PV, bare minimum. They expected us to get to 150 PV minimum. 300 PV was average, but we don't do average. We do savage. We want 500 PV.
What the yeah,
So
that's
they were
right, 5
expecting
fucking
us
100?
to do 500 PV, so $1,500 because it was roughly $3.3 to one PV. So they want us to do
Yeah.
$1,500 every single month.
God. Who no, okay, Amway is expensive. We know this. But who the fuck is actually selling that much PV? And of course, this is
Nobody.
alleged, but how often did you see people or do you believe people were buying just that PV amount?
Maybe if a holiday rolled around and someone was really salesman-y, was really good at getting someone to buy these big bundle baskets that people would post on Dreamstream and sell none. I was capable of it. I would make these great like Canva flyers and I'd post them on Dreamstream and not pass out one of them. So I would do that all the time. But anyway, yeah. So I think very rarely, maybe if Valentine's Day or Christmas came around, then you know what? Maybe one or two actually did it. But for the most part, in my opinion, or at least what I did, was I bought what I needed to buy and I put it all under my mom.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's what I mean, in reality, that's what you're being taught. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I personally believe that. Like when I
The amount
heard
of
that they
times I was
changed
like, that, like two, like fingertips touching each other close to whatever next pin level. And I just get a text out of nowhere, like 2 minutes before the rollover. Do what you have to do. I'm like, okay, well, I got so many kids. You're so close to the next, level. You should just, buy the PV. It doesn't matter. Just buy the PV so you can get there.
that's so fucking it's not okay, like, that's, allegedly
Fraud.
fraudulent.
It's fraud.
Yeah, it's very yeah, because yeah, when I was in, you didn't even need you could go in and put in your customer volume. They were just telling us, "Hey, buy" so 200 was the standard of excellence back
Mm.
then for singles, 300 for a couple. So they would even send down cases like, "Hey, don't forget to put in your customer volume." And that's when you'd go in, equate 50 PV, allot it to customers, they would say, sell it to your mom, sell it to your grandma, sell it to your goldfish. Just put somebody in there.
Mhm.
That's your customer.
Yeah, they say the same
And
thing.
it's
They didn't change
fucking
that.
great. Oh my God.
So
But Amway's
the sell it
trying
to
to
your
get
mom
its,
is just buy it and then create a receipt and assign that receipt to your mom.
oh
What are they
my
gonna
God.
do? Call your mommy and double check? They'll never know.
Wow. And that was Amway cracking down,
They didn't
which
crack down. They just figured out how to loop the system.
yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like worldwide and all of these different lines of affiliation, they do that. And I personal experience, you guys like don't sue me, but it's from personal experience. That's exactly what happens, and it's wild to look back and see that that's what's going on because that was never disclosed up front. That you were going, and you used the words perfectly too. That you were so tired of being battered and berated that you did decide to do that and to start buying your PV, which is so devastating because
Yeah.
how you had to have gotten to this point where obviously like I'm fucking tired of listening to this shit, and then you made that decision.
Yeah. I don't know, every day I would open Kate. I would get messages about my PV, about, your ditto's kind of lacking. That means you gotta really do your PV this month. Or, your ditto was really good, but you know what? Since your ditto was strong, we expect your blueprint to be so much stronger, and that'll set you up going strong blueprints forward. And I was just constantly for months. Like at that point, I've been in business about 7 months. For 7 months straight, all I'd heard in any way or other, no matter what I asked Sam, no matter what I asked Sam, no matter what I cated my sponsor, Sarah, no matter who I cated, Sam or Sarah, everything somehow came back to me lacking in PV, to me lacking in my ditto, came back to me lacking just in general with my finances. Like I was in a terrible financial position. I had credit cards up the neck, money out the wazoo. Like there was nothing. I had like 2 jobs. I was working full time and in school. There was no affording to happen. And we're like, well, since you're so broke, you better figure out how to sell it. And that's all I heard for 7 months. So I was like, all right, well, fuck it. This is what you do,
Yeah.
right? This is what you want me to do. You want me to go ahead and create a receipt. It doesn't matter what it is, what it's for, as long as I hit the goal. So I created a
Yeah.
receipt.
Wow. And that's devastating to hear because that was not what you were told at the very beginning when you had signed up for this. When you had first originally decided like this is what you wanted to do and you had sat down with whoever it was, how long did it take you to figure out that it was Amway and worldwide? Were they pretty upfront about it, or did it take some time for you to learn that it was Amway?
Let me think on that one, because going through, I remember they didn't say it in the MG1 or the MG2. I think it came up in the follow-up one. It was either the board plan, like the board plan one, the follow-up. It was right in there, like the step 3, step 4 of the process. And like they didn't tell me in step 1, step 2. They told me about worldwide kind of briefly.
Yeah.
They were like, we're in a system of mentorship, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. They gave me that in the MG2. And even my MG2 wasn't really an MG2. My friend came over to my apartment, sat on my couch, and like wrote everything out on a notepad. It's like, that's great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Right.
But
Wow.
I heard Amway, I think, brought up the first time, like the name, the first time in the board plan. And my first board plan was actually the guy who talks really fast.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Him.
was at
Ugh.
one of his meetings he does in my state as a guest.
Yeah.
My friend was there. She was like, hey, I'm gonna go see him. Do you want to come? And this can just be your first board plan. And so I tagged along, watched the guy who talked really fast talk really fast. And he brought it up in his thing. And like I'd been told there was selling. Like kind of like there was like a step 2.5 for me where my friend came over and was kind of like, okay, so yeah, we do this and we sell, and you kind of got to hit this certain goal. She didn't really get into super details with me, but she gave me like a cliff note so I wasn't confused walking into the room with him.
Yeah.
And so I officially heard the name Amway and WWD, a worldwide group, in his board plan. But like I didn't know about Amway. Quite frankly, I didn't give a fuck. Still don't give a fuck. I was like,
Right.
you're gonna make me rich. That's the only thing I cared about, was that I was gonna be rich.
Yeah.
I was gonna do it with my homegirl. Problem solved. I keep my friends and I get money.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds great, doesn't it? Like when they really pitch it to you, it sounds fantastic. But then, like you said, you're kind
Yes.
of getting into this. You're noticing things are off. They're forcing PV down your throat. They're being toxic to their wives. And something else that you mentioned too was the blatant racism that was just happening right in front of you. That wasn't told to you up front, was it?
No, you don't know. It's not told to you up front at all. And you honestly, if you weren't looking for it, like if you weren't thinking about it, if you honestly were like, just like, I'm gonna keep my head down and do what they tell me, you would completely miss it. But like, think back, like how many Kates were you sent from like Black people, Arab people, Hispanic people, people with an accent, people it was hard to understand first go.
Not very many, unless they were in a leadership position and had kind of been coached to that point.
Exactly.
And because my upline, he was Black, and then we had my Syrian upline, but they were very, what's the word that they use? Postured, if you will. They very much had what they were supposed to in worldwide. So of course I got their Kates. But other than that, you're totally right. We hardly ever, I mean, not that my line of sponsorship really even had a ton of people of color. I mean, we
Yeah.
had my direct upline, we had quite a few. We had my upline, Barbara, she was Japanese, Jenny and Craig. So Craig's wife, she is I want to say Korean and Filipino, but it's like there's just not a whole big wide range of diversity there. So
Yep.
you're totally right when you say how many people did you hear these Kates from? You didn't. If there was a heavy accent, you didn't. And I believe that we did have a guest that spoke on that she wasn't allowed to sing Kates until she quote stopped sounding ghetto. I was like, that is such a
Yep.
slur and such a derogatory term. What the fuck are you
Yep.
guys doing?
Even like in eyeline of sponsorship, there was a couple, she started building a single and he tagged on later. They came through later and they didn't really send her Kate's through. Like she was like, they would like use her all the time as an example, like, oh, she doesn't have a car. Her car broke down on her way to her MG1. 2 hours away from her house, and she still managed to get there on time. She is the example. She was making it to board plans, riding the bus. She was doing this, that, and all the third in LA. She was doing handstands, cart flip, and pogo sticks, just making it all happen. Love using her as an example. We would barely get a Kate from her just because she naturally talked with like that African American vernacular. She was naturally just talking the way she was raised. and they would not send her Kates through. Like, I think I've heard 4 Kates from her in the entire time I was in business. Meanwhile, people who literally got in sponsorship and like left within 2 weeks, you'd hear every Kate they sent while they were in business. Frank and Sam had a leg that they had 2 legs that they were trying to break diamond with them as well. All 3 of them wanted to go diamond together, and one of the legs, you would hear their Kates all the time, and they'd pull their Kates out of the archives to send out to everybody because they were just that good. They weren't. They were like the Kates everybody else was sending out. You know, they'd pull their getting ready for spring leadership Kate out and shoot that out first because of the way they talk. They sound just like Mrs. Johnson. They sound just like the guy who talks really fast, his wife. They sound just like all the other diamonds up there on the stage. You can hear that they're a diamond in their voice. And so you would just get all of those undertones. And like, they'd occasionally shoot up a message, someone's super excited, maybe they have an accent, but they're super excited, and like, this excitement is infectious. That's what you'd hear from people with accents.
Yeah.
Their excitement is infectious.
That's insane. And I think another thing that you had said is they did something that you didn't want them to do, and that was they used you as an example.
It was fine. Yes. So like, the way I talked, like, I remember so very clearly, like, I sent out like this one Kate, like Vincent sent out a Kate. He was like, you need to like write out what your why. You need to send a Kate to your upline right now, you know, explaining why the place you're in is the place to be and why you're gonna make it change and how you're gonna make it pop and blah blah blah. And so I was bored, and so like, yeah, why not? I'll do it. And so I sent a Kate, like, you know what? I'm going to make this the place to be because this, that, and the third. And like, immediately I got like messages from Sam. I got messages from Vincent. I got a message from Sarah, and they were all like, oh yeah, that's such a great Kate, you know, it sounded so good. And like, no shade to Sarah. She was saying what Sam taught her to say. But Sam and Vincent and Frank and the Johnsons and people who didn't really know me, my Kate was being sent out to them. And they were listening to me, and they were being told to listen to me and what I was saying, because this is what it looked like to be coachable, to be mentorable, to have the right head on your shoulders and to know what you want to do. That's what they told me. And my Kate, as they told me, they sent it out. We told everyone to listen to your Kate because you were the most coachable, you were adaptable, you're exactly what everyone wants to be. And so when you hear that, well, fuck, like, shit, you set the bar here. I gotta come here now. Yeah. Like, I can't just continue to lowball it. I gotta ball out harder and more. So
yeah, which is insane. Like, that probably added a lot of pressure too, because with other, especially when it comes to other people who maybe their Kates don't get sent out as much because they don't have the clarity that they're looking for in their voices, which is so crazy. I guess maybe it's just because I don't know that I've ever had an accent that anybody had a complaint over, but I'm also from the Pacific Northwest. We have no accent over there. We're just there, you know. But and when it came to hearing about the fact that your friend was not able to send out Kates until she changed the diction in her voice, ridiculous, and that is totally racist. There's no way that it's not.
It absolutely is.
And it's just frustrating to hear that had happened. And I also I think it was you who said also the lack of representation on stage too.
Yeah, there's absolutely a complete and total lack of representation. I forgot, y'all can't see me. I'm Black. And so I speak in a way that most Black people don't speak. And so they were trying to encourage that so hard in the Kates, and it was ridiculous. But even then, being on stage, there was one Black person there, I think. I don't remember any other ones. And she wasn't even, like, I'm not going to say she wasn't Black, but she was Jamaican. Like, we all know who I'm talking about. She wasn't just the average, like, American Black girl, which was who my upline was trying to talk to. And I'm being confused that they weren't clicking well. They were talking like, copy paper. Man, we're construction paper over here. It's, you gotta get out. That was a very colorful reference. But you know how the copy paper is like kind of smooth. It's kind of like smooth and it's polished and it's got a sheen, versus construction paper, which it's a little harder to work with. But once you're used to it, once you've got it in the shape you want, you can take it and make it whatever you want. You can go so far with construction paper. It made so much sense in my head, and then I said it and it was not clear at all. But
good. It was good.
It's just, they weren't weren't speaking to the people they wanted to connect with. And they preached so much about connection, but they did not know how to connect with the people they were trying to connect with. And if
Yeah.
you didn't extend your neck out, they weren't going to finish shaking their hand out. They only put their hand out halfway. You had to hop across the table to actually make that connection. They didn't realize that there was no representation. And so as the pins progressed, like I would see all of the Black people, all of the brown people, all the Hispanics, the Asians, everybody would be up here in the stands with me. They'd be in the nosebleeds because you know what? They weren't able to get a babysitter to come watch their kids. So they had to drive, and they got there right before the doors closed. So they're up in the nosebleeds, and we're shamed. We're shamed about being in the nosebleeds. We're told to be there as soon as the gates open, but not a minute earlier. We're told to be there on time so you can get as close to the floor as possible. And if you're in the nosebleeds, shame on you. I hope you learned your lesson. But
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with being in the nosebleeds, but that's where everybody was. That's where all the minorities were. All of the white people that you see represented on stage who were able to afford the babysitters for their perfect little twins were able to make it down to the gate. They were able to be up there next to the stage and be lining the red carpet to shake hands with the Diamonds as they come down at FED. They were able to be there.
They don't. They want to try to say that they're inclusive, but let's be real. The big crown guy, he cannot say a single damn thing to
Nope.
relate to anybody except for rich white dudes. Like,
Nope.
not at all.
And I'd pay to see him try. That'd be hilarious.
Right. And I'm sure, like, realistically, I mean, there's definitely like a wide variety of diamonds everywhere. Like, there's so many, and I'm sure there's so many in other organizations as well. And in
Yes.
fact, but in Worldwide specifically, the only two diamonds of color are the Jamaican woman and then that one dude. I don't have a pseudonym for him, but it's him and his wife. That guy. He's
Oh, I
bald.
know who you're talking about. Yeah. He's got no hair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember you had said something so perfectly too, because as we had talked about this beforehand, where we were talking about how my upline had changed his physical appearance to match the worldwide cookie cutter,
Mhm.
and same with the Syrian guy, and pretty much every like
Yep.
minority person in my upline or who are higher pin levels. You said it perfectly. You said that they were different shades of the same color. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So I don't know. The way I took it, different shades of the same color. Everyone was like a dark gray, a gray. Maybe they wore like a cream, but they were all shades of black and white. There weren't any, there's no variety to them. You knew exactly what you're getting because goddamn purple is purple, whether it's lavender, lilac, like navy, royal purple, it's purple. We all know purple is purple. We're all in the same color family, whether we be lighter or darker in their skin. And they're teaching us how to be the shade of purple. They're all teaching us, okay, well, if you want to be a lilac, well, then you need to stop this and you need to get rid of this and you need to lighten your load and you need to, lighten your hue and you need to tint this and you need to tone this. And this is the hex code you put in your computer. And now you're a lilac. How does it feel to be here? How does it feel to be the perfect shade of emerald green? How does it feel to be a ruby? How does it feel? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was meaning. They were teaching you how to water yourself down to get as close to that almost perfect shade of like white. When you're on, like when you're on the hex codes things and the slider goes all the way down the white at the end, when you're on like
Yeah.
a purple or like a yellow and it's almost white, but just barely. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
No, that's a really good point because I think that's such a good perspective, and I don't think that's talked about enough. I wanted my platform to be able to add that. It could to be able to have that voice of there was no fucking inclusivity here. There was a lack of fucking representation.
Yes.
They were silencing people, it felt like anyways, who were quote the base level people. I was right there with all the base level people, and that's where you saw all of the LGBTQ community, all of the people of color.
Yep.
We were all within that base fucking level. We are all there, but who was really raising the rank? I don't know. It's all very curated to me, in my humble opinion.
But I've not like
No, you're
just
good.
thinking about it, everyone is connected to a blonde somewhere. Whether they dyed
Oh
their hair
shit.
blonde and married somebody. Just think about it. Everyone is blonde. Somewhere along the line, everyone is blonde.
Oh shit. Yeah. They are. So my upline diamond, she was blonde because she was trying to club owner's wife, right? So I
Mhm.
heard through the grapevine allegedly that they have not been speaking at functions. 3 different functions they hadn't spoken at, and now her hair is dark brown.
She
Conspiracy?
did not speak at the last function I was at, and her
Oh
hair
shit,
was
really?
like
You were
almost
there.
black. Yes. because she came on stage
Oh,
and everyone was like,
no.
oh my God, is that her? And they were like, no, that can't be her. Her hair isn't blonde. Where'd the blonde go? It was like almost black and she had it in like a honeycomb. It was a choice. It's not a good choice. Her dress was like
Not
neon. It was all bad. But everyone was looking like, oh my God, that's her? That's what she's doing now?
wow.
And then that's when everybody else started letting their roots grow back in.
Wow.
Because
That's
everybody was like a
insane.
dyed blonde. So
Oh,
everyone started letting
definitely.
their roots grow back in. And so like up to here, like about their ears, it was like roots and then whatever was left of the blonde.
So, okay, you're right. You left this year as of 2023, right?
Yes.
That's right. Okay, so you were around to see the club owner and his wife talk about their child's autism and somehow using this as an excuse.
Yes.
Oh my God. That pains me. When I heard that, I was so pissed
Yes.
because I was told, and maybe you heard the same thing, where they were saying that they were giving like a sob story that they had to drive 2 hours to get their child the proper education.
Yep. I was there
Can
for that.
let me expose some shit. I live in the same fucking state as these people. Sadly, I do again. Okay. This is bullshit. I also have a child with autism. And no, there's developmental preschools everywhere. And there is a state insurance that, as long as your child does not have assets in their name above a certain amount, I think it's like $2,000, your child, despite your income, can qualify for this particular insurance. It is a long-term health insurance in the state of Arizona, and it covers everything from speech therapy to occupational therapy to physical therapy, if that's what you need, horse therapy, if that's your thing. It covers damn near fucking everything. And these privileged ass people have the fucking audacity to use their child's disability as if it's the worst goddamn thing that happened to them. Yes, at the end of the day, if that's the worst thing that happened to you, oh my God. Like,
Literally. And they made it seem like it was so whatever. And it was crazy because I was on stage and like, yeah, now I drive Mercedes in the Mercedes. And I was like, oh God, like that's the flex is that you drive the child there. And then she got on stage and she told this sob story about how they were in the Chick-fil-A and some woman was like, come over here, sweetie. Her boy is weird. And she was like, yeah, so to all the people who think you can't do this. And I never got the connection. I was like, can you just connect that? Can you connect the Chick-fil-A and the woman pulling your son away? I get it's fucked up, but like, can you connect that to this business? Can you just draw the line for me? Because I can't. She had stories. It was crazy. She would say some things. And then me, not knowing better, thinking I would do better. I had one downline, before I left business. And I think the only reason she actually got into business is because like my friend did, I took her to the guy who talked really fast. And she met someone there who was like, she like shared there, like something really personal. She's like, my child can't hear. And someone there was like, oh, because like before the thing starts, you mill around and you talk to everybody to network or whatever. She was talking
yeah.
to somebody and they go, well, you know what, you should listen to that audio because she talks about her special needs child there. And I think that it would help you so much to see where you could go. And I think she went home and listened to that audio. I know she did because I
Bro.
put it in her little package for her and she was eating them audios up. I would send her like 5 audios and she would listen to them in a day and she was eating them up.
Oh my, that's so sad because yes, having a child with a disability, great connection. Not the same thing, especially when you are I mean, I don't know. Either they're lizard people, but I don't think they're real people. I don't look at the fucking
I'm with
club
you on
owner's
it.
wife and
They
see
can't be real. They
there's
can't
no
be real.
way. But like, the fact that because when I was around, the club owner would like almost deny neurodiversity. He'd be like, "No, neurodiversion's not real." Like, oh, or like the Syrian guy would always be like, "Oh yeah, they tried to tell me I was ADHD and they wanted to medicate me, but we don't do that." And it's like,
Yeah.
that is such a negative stigma. But it's funny how when it impacts the club owner's child, all of a sudden now it's so important that you have to use this as a sob story for that to be the worst thing that happened to them. Like, in my humble opinion, it's a blessing that they have a child with autism. Because if the Chick-fil-A story is true, which I'm sorry that you were getting your homophobic fries and wanted to do all that, like, hey, that's
Right.
your thing, whatever. I'm
They
not going to
showed
do
who they
that.
were at the place where they're terrible people. I don't know why we're surprised, but
Yeah. And it's like if that happens, like, yes, it hurts. I mean, I have had so many opportunities of like that are teaching moments for me. In fact, I had a child come up to me and start talking to a small child, maybe like 5 years old. And this child's asking me about my son. My little 4 year old does not talk the same way that a normal 4 year old would talk. Does he talk? Yes, he has few words, few and far between. He is learning, but
hmm,
he's like asking me all these questions. And I'm like, if this is the worst thing that this child is going to say that because he would say, oh, well, he's being annoying because he keeps saying the same word over and over again. If anyone's not familiar, some children with autism or any sort of speech delay or really any sort of neurodivergence, they can have what's called echolalia. And echolalia is where they hear, in the most basic sense, I'm going to be explaining this all kinds of wrong, but what I was explained is that in the basic sense, your child or the person is hearing this word over and over and over again in their head, and they're stuck on it. So my son was stuck on a word, and this little kid was like, "He's so annoying," and I'm like, okay, like I totally see where you're coming from. You're a small child. It turns out that this kid actually has neurodivergent siblings who are autistic, and it was interesting. But like those are teachable moments. Those are
yeah.
such good opportunities that might be hurtful. Like it hurts to see that, like absolutely. But it is an opportunity to realize how humbling it is to know that you get to teach your children that these differences it's just a part of life and you should embrace it, not be ashamed of it. And for them to use that on stage makes me so mad.
Yeah, it was not a hot moment at all. And I remember like even like being in love with the business, being like, what did your child have to do? Like I think it
Yeah.
was spring leadership. I'm like, what does he have to do with leading a company? I was just like, I'm
Yeah.
so confused. I could just, the math was not mathing. It was like girl math at the finest. I was not following it at all. I'm like, I'm still puzzling this equation over here. I was like, can we just, and then out of nowhere, because they spoke reverse, he comes up on the stage and is like hyping everyone up. And I'm still trying to figure out what she meant with the Chick-fil-A story.
Yeah, like it is irrelevant. To give them the benefit of the doubt, if they're lizard people, I will do that purely if they're lizard people. I guess you could say, like, oh, when you're connecting with people, realizing that there's differences in people. That is the only way, shape, or form I could see that story making sense. And I guarantee you she did not loop it back that way. It was purely this is the sob story. And
Yeah.
that's it, which is so sad. Like,
No, yeah, no,
how,
absolutely.
how desperate do you have to be to do
Very.
that? And that just hit like a pain point for me because again, like I'm new to this being a parent of a child with autism. Their child is I think like around my child's age too, and it's upsetting to see that because I as a like a lot of parents with
Yeah.
children with autism, like yeah, we struggle, but I don't know a single parent who would be like, yeah, let me just use my child as a sob story, period, end of story. Like
If I
eh,
remember correctly, they used it as like a this is why you should go diamond because if you have a child with autism with your worldwide husband and or worldwide wife, then you would have the money to drive 2 hours into the middle of nowhere, which is I think she spun the Chick-fil-A story to preempt that story so the new people wouldn't be confused that she had a child with autism to then go into this why you should be a diamond thing. I think if I followed that
right,
anywhere correctly. But
that makes sense.
it was like a 10-minute long rant about the expensive things she could buy, such as the Mercedes that she's named her child after,
Oh
the
yeah, I forgot.
like
Yeah.
her house, the the school 3 hours in the middle of nowhere that she sends her child to, and she drives them there every single day or whatever I think she said, and she just kind of went off about all the frivolities that diamond life supposedly ensued.
Yeah, which is bullshit. Like all of that is fucking bullshit. Like, could I see that making extra money could be helpful? Yeah, 100%. I think like you could like health insurance is expensive, but there are state offered opportunities for children with disabilities. Yes, some of them
Yes.
are income based. That's totally true. But there are
Yeah.
some that are not. And that is frustrating. So I want to
Or
know
at
what
least if you
fucking
were
school
able
that.
to step yourself back and humble yourself and be willing to put your child in a school where, you know what, yeah, there might be poor people. And you know what? Your child should
God
learn to
forbid.
interact with people from different economic and socio classes. Why? So they're a better person and not an asshole like you. Like,
When you start to like differentiate yourself from quote poor people, it's like, oh no, what are they going to do, catch the poor? oh no, like,
oh no, the poor plague is upon us. Like, hide your coffers, hide your gold.
I remember too, the club owner in one of his talks, he would say, I was homeless for 2 weeks. I used an EBT card for a month. And I was like,
That's
oh
hilarious.
shit.
I was
He
on
is
EBT the entire time. It was in Worldwide. And the guy who talks really fast, Diamond, the video they play of him in the Worldwide, every time they hype it up, is a video of like one of the Worldwide like camera crew driving around, and he's pointing like, yeah. So when I was 16, I slept in that slide for 3 months.
oh shit. His parents were diamonds.
And then they'll follow him with the club owner. And like, you can't, that's not a fair comparison. They straight up put this dude's a mugshot on the screen. He
Wait,
had a
who's my
mugshot.
shot?
Yeah, the guy who talks really fast, New Diamond, has a mugshot. And they put it on the screen, and it was like the epitome of like, oh, look how he's grown up. He cut his hair up and he shaved his beard, and he's not wearing that loose jersey anymore. He's wearing a button up and a tie. Like, this is terrible.
It's horrible.
Because
And
I
I
remember
feel
they were
like
asking him, and they were like, how'd you build the business looking like that? He just goes, Yale or jail. You said anyone
yeah.
from Yale or jail.
They do say that. So in this, we laugh about this, but how toxic is that? Like they're really making shit up. The club, oh, he really was. I was homeless for 2 weeks. Like, oh shit, my guy, you were 2 weeks. You were
You
couch
slept in a
surfing.
car?
Yeah, he was couch surfing. I think he was just on some sort of vacation.
That's not even homeless. That's like, I don't have a place of my own, but people are still willing to let me in. Homeless is I'm actually out on the street. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's absurd. And it's this kind of stuff in combination with the pure misogyny. I mean, it's so crazy that this is even happening. And were you single when you were in the business?
yes, I was single the entire time I was in the business. Not that Sam didn't encourage me to get with someone who was like really fast. Like, when
No
I got
way.
in business, there was this guy and he just went double eagle. No. He was running to double eagle. And so he got double eagle. And when I left, he was like in silver. But like he had just hit eagle when I got in business. And he's like, the sky is the limit from here. And I was getting like really subtly encouraged from like Sam to like do what I needed to do to build my team to be worthy of this guy's attention.
No way.
Yes. Yes way.
What the actual fuck? And was this any sort of guy that you would have paid attention to otherwise?
He was honestly kind of sweet. If I hadn't been in Worldwide, I might have. If it
Okay,
hadn't been
fair.
in Worldwide, I might have. He was genuinely really nice. But I don't know how he was behind closed doors because he was in California and I was definitely not. And I wasn't a part of his team. Last I heard, this guy was in gold, about to go double eagle ruby. But I think he was trying to make it so he hit, God, what's the pin after Sapphire? Before he got out of,
Emerald.
what?
Emerald?
Yeah, he was trying to hit whatever that pin was, Emerald, before his double eagle ruby qualification like finalized him as a double eagle ruby. He wanted to like go through it so fast. It never officially, he went into qual and he came out a Emerald. That was his goal. It was a lofty goal, I'll say that.
That's insane. So they try setting you up with this guy who lives in California, and that's crazy.
Like, they would encourage me at these functions to go get in his huddles and to go talk to them, and I come up with a good question to ask him, but don't cross line. Don't do that. Don't ask any question you wouldn't ask me, Sarah, but go ask him. This literally it's like 24-year-old dude. Like, go ask
That's
him.
insane.
Go ask him a question you'd ask me, your 30-year-old woman mentor. Like, that wouldn't be the same question.
Insane.
So,
wow.
and especially because you're typing him up, it's like, oh my God, this is the dude who's like, he can make friends and get a contact out of anybody, anytime, no matter what. Everyone just trusts him. Everyone wants to be in his organization.
That is wow. Okay, so you've seen some shit. I'm just so like, I'm glad that you got out. So from my understanding, you got out at the same time as a couple of your upline and some of your crossline. Like y'all left in a max exodus, right?
Oh yeah. And like, it wasn't planned at all because I was already kind of feeling like wonky donkey off balance, especially after I left the last function I went to, which was like a spring leadership family reunion tickets had just gone on sale, and I had been feeling weird about it like already. And then like a month, the month after the major function, the next major function's tickets go on sale, and like I was looking at it like, do I really want to spend $200 of my paycheck on this ticket when I have no food in my fridge? And I was like, no. And I didn't buy it. And I was like, why does that feel so good? And then like from there, like I already was like feeling weird at the function, but I really took the time to like sit with the weird,
Yeah.
especially because like leaving the function even. Like I felt weird. I fell asleep. I was the last person in our Airbnb. I closed up house and everything. And so I was by myself for 4 hours. I didn't hear about Worldwide. I didn't hear about, oh my God, how great was so and so's speech? What was your favorite part of the night? Did you hear what they said in the huddle? I didn't hear all that. It was
Yeah.
just me with me. And I could listen to
Yeah.
what I wanted to. I could do what I wanted to. I could watch what I wanted to on TV without feeling weird and out of place and guilty. And
Yeah.
I was like, why am I putting myself through this? And so I'd already been
Right.
feeling like that way for a minute. And then my homegirl, my friend, Sarah, she was like, so I'm not feeling it. And I was like, okay. And that's kind of how it went from there. She left. I left. I didn't say not one word to my upline. I
Yeah.
left them with absolutely nothing. Like my Kate had already been off for a minute just because I was struggling with checks because I disappeared for like 4 days. I was already like not doing well financially before. I disappeared for 4 days. Of course, my paycheck is short, so
Yeah.
I don't have the money to pay Kate and Worldwide right now. So I wasn't doing that. I was trying to get the money together to put my subscriptions back on, and then I was like, why would I do that? Why would I do that? Just why? And I
Yeah.
just kind of never did. And then I decided I was gonna leave the business, and I just deleted the apps. I didn't resubscribe or anything. I deleted all my cards off the app, and I just deleted the app. I didn't send a text
Wow.
or anything. I didn't open any Kates. I just took it all off my phone. I was like, cool, that's it. I canceled all my
Wow.
dittos, and I went through my customers, and I went on all of them. Do not talk. Do not message. Do not message. Do not contact. Do not contact. Do not contact. And so, yeah.
Wow. Good for you. I mean, that moment of peace, it's different, isn't it? When you're like not being fed their bullshit and you can kind of breathe. There's a whole
Yes.
different sense of clarity. And I'm really glad that you were able to have that moment and we're just kind of like, you know what? I'm done with this because everything that you have experienced is not acceptable. And I really hope that people who weren't a part of this organization start to recognize how serious this is. I was just recently watching documentaries about
Mhm.
Nexium. And sure, we look at someone like Keith Raniere, and yeah, he's a blatant fucking horrible person. But what people don't understand is that Worldwide is just like Nexium. Like the only difference is that there's no well-known sex cult aspect of it. Not that we know. I mean, allegedly, I don't fucking know. Could
You
be
never
a
know
little
what
higher
happens
up.
on Peter Island. Why do you think it's named that? I'm sorry.
No, you're true. You're right. It's so true. But I want people to hear your story and know that this is important. This is important information because
Yeah.
it's pure deception. What you went through was deception, and what you went through was not acceptable. Never is any of that shit okay. And especially as somebody who experienced racism from this business, I am so sorry that you went through that. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. And it just frustrates me that
Yeah.
y- anybody has to deal with that at all. And what are they doing about it? Fucking nothing. Not a
Profiting.
goddamn thing. In fact, yeah. Oh, yeah. Profiting. Oh, okay. Going back to profit. So I don't even have to say allegedly anymore because I've seen that this shit is actually true because it's in the Worldwide Dream Builder fucking website disclaimer and it's disclaimed on every fucking audio. So did you know that your upline were getting paid off of the apps once they reached platinum?
I did not. And honestly, if they had just like told me that during the MG1s or whatever, whenever they did the little stick man during the board plans, you just said, oh, and by the way, I made like 250 ahead. I've been like, cool. I'm not worried about the chump change 250. I would have not been worried about that at all. If you had just said it, I would not have negative fucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. If anybody's not aware, they have these Worldwide Dream Builder audios, and at the end of every single audio is a disclaimer where they say something along the lines of the income depicted might come from sources other than Amway, such as the sale of business and training tools or outside investments. And that's at the end of every single audio. I didn't even recognize that that was what was happening until I listened to it and I put two and two together. I never Never thought about that. And then I have to recommend for everybody, if y'all have not listened to Roberta Blevins' Life After MLM podcast, there's an episode about the Amway Tools business. A historian goes over the history of the Amway Tools businesses, such as Worldwide Dream Builders. And allegedly, per this guy, they weren't making money off of Amway. They're making all of their money from the apps and the tools, allegedly, per that historian. So that's some bullshit. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Did you have any last thoughts for our viewers?
Last thoughts: this Amway and Worldwide are bullshit. They're liars. Nothing is as it seems. Whatever your instincts are telling you in regards to this business, if say you are ignoring what they're telling you when they're telling you in these board plans, you're going through the process right now. You might not realize you're in a process, and they're telling you don't listen to what you're hearing on the internet, and you're listening to this. Thank God you are. Please ignore them. They're lying. They say they want the best for you. They do not. They really don't. They're like the other Mother and Coraline. They want your soul. They don't want you. I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And if you guys hear this episode, please share it. You guys have to share Jada's story. Her story is worth sharing because you never know who's going to be trying to enter this organization, and her story maybe prevents them from doing that if that's what their decision is. So I just say that to be kosher. Don't sue me. But no, I'm really grateful. I've definitely enjoyed speaking with you and getting to know you. And yeah, so if you guys want to be like Jada, if you guys want to come on anonymously the same way that she did, if you want to share as much or as little as you like ML or anti-MLM content or trauma, really just any stories that you guys have to share, I'd be more than happy to let you guys speak here, because my biggest goal is to be able to have people have a voice. I just want people to know that you don't have to just be brainwashed to share your story. Your story fucking matters. So you guys can find me on TikTok and Instagram at xsnt.podcast. Please, if you want to share your story, send me a DM on Instagram. That's xsnt.podcast. I am on YouTube as well as Spotify, Apple Music, all of the places you guys can listen to podcasts. So thank you so much, Jada, again for your time, and we'll catch everybody in the next episode.
Bye.